Welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe, and thank you for joining me on Believers Talk for a special edition of Believers Talk as we look back at the Buffalo Bills 2018 season. Lots to talk about when it comes to the 2018 season, but we start right now. Before we do that, however, I want to make sure that you guys subscribe to this channel for continual great content, just like my special guests who also have great content. We have great content here as well. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, leave a comment below. Whether it's me, whether it's my special guests over at #Sports, we'll comment back. We always have a good time talking to fellow Bills fans or fellow football fans about what's next for the Buffalo Bills, or what was, in this case, for the Buffalo Bills. In this video, we are going to talk about the Buffalo Bills offense in 2018 on their channel later this week. I think it's going to be on Wednesday. They're going to release the video about the defense that we did together as well. It was a lot of fun hanging out with these guys for just a little bit, even if it was over phone conversation. Fun guys. Again, if you're not already subscribed to #Sports, do that. Do yourself a favor. Good Buffalo Bills content, good football content, lots of football knowledge. Both of them have a lot of football knowledge. Good guys too. So, all right, thank you for both of them for joining me. Hit that subscribe button to this channel. Go over to their channel on Wednesday. Check out the video we did together on the Buffalo Bills defense. But here is our breakdown of the Buffalo Bills offense in 2018 and how they really did. So check it out on their end. All right, and after that, I'll be back here to talk more, to wrap things up. So enjoy the video. I'll see you back here in a little bit. Thanks.
So happy to be joined by the guys that are #Sports, Mario and Paul. So hey guys, how you doing?
Hi.
Yeah, we're waving to the camera that you can't see.
Well, you think I can't see, right?
That's right.
He bugged our car. I can't believe it.
So if you went up to #Sports, or if you're not subscribed, be sure to subscribe to them. Also, we will do the defensive breakdown on their channel. So we'll do offense right here, right now. We'll break down the offense. I'll talk to these guys about that. And then go over to #Sports, and we'll talk about the defense as well. So you guys get a breakdown of the offense and defense. We all know that special team stuff, so we don't have to get into that. So first, let's talk about the offense a little bit, guys. Obviously, the offense, as the conversation starts and ends with Josh Allen. What do you guys think of Josh Allen as progressed throughout the season?
I thought that, it's funny. I have a little different perspective on Allen because there's two types of Josh Allen that you have to talk about. You got to talk pre-injury, post-injury. So,
yeah.
He had his 6 games he played in, and then pre-injury, and then the 6 afterward, only 11 starts. He ended up having over 2,000 yards passing and 600 yards rushing, only done by 2 other quarterbacks in NFL history. So the things about Allen is, I think after his injury, he was more of a touch passer. I know it's going to sound very funny, that aspect of it, but more of the passes he didn't put so much heat on. I mean, some of the passes he did have to put heat on, but some of the passes he would just, he had a little bit more touch in the second half of the year. And I think because he's hurt, I think that's the biggest thing that I'm going to take away from the season is I think they put him in there. I think he's still a little hurt from when he got injured, and which affected his play early on because we saw him running forever. Going on.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point. Joint injuries just don't go away, especially elbow injuries. Like we talked about, the elbow injury at pretty decent length here on our channel, and those things just don't go away. But I think the other side to that, not to play devil's advocate to Mario's point, but when you have a quarterback that starts and then has to stop, right? It's not like he was pulled. He wasn't pulled.
Yep.
He wasn't replaced. He was replaced because he was injured. So I think a young quarterback goes in and approaches his time off a little bit differently, right? He's not fighting to get back in there. He's like, okay, I know I'm going to get my opportunity again. Let me sit back, and now that I've seen it, now that I've dipped my toes in the water, let me learn. And it almost was, I think, helpful to him, the fact that he got hurt, because it allowed him to step back without any confidence issues and say, okay, let me objectively look at what's happening on the field, and let me learn a little bit now that I've got some film on myself. I understand myself a little bit more, and now I can focus on getting healthy and learning what's happening. So again, not to play devil's advocate to Mario's point, but I think either is very possible.
Yeah, and I think something that's kind of not mentioned as much, I also think that the Derek Anderson signing, even though I wanted it to happen long before it actually did, what was a huge benefit to Josh Allen, which I think it shows that we extended his contract. Derek Anderson talking about how the tutelage under him has really helped Josh Allen. Do you guys agree with that assessment? Or?
Oh, Joe, man, we were in the offseason last year, and I was like, when are we just going to sign Derek Anderson? Can we just sign? Can we just get it over with? This was before the preseason. We're like, let's just sign Derek Anderson. Just get it over with. You know you're drafting a quarterback. Just get Derek Anderson in here, back the truck up. Let's get it over with.
Yeah, I kept telling people, like, you know, trading A.J. McCarron away was not for a 5th-round pick. I know, Paul, I know you love A.J. McCarron, but for a 5th-round pick, to me, wasn't that bad of a deal. The dumb part on the coach's end was not getting a veteran leader to step in and say, okay, well, we need someone to teach these young guys, even if it was Nathan Peterman, who was only in his 2nd season. So, you know, I think that was a big mistake that we should have got Derek Anderson a lot sooner. But so moving on to the running back position, obviously LaShawn McCoy is our big back, but didn't have that great of a year. You know, Chris Ivory, I thought came in, stepped in really well, and then we have Marcus Murphy and Keith Ford. What is your assessment of the running back position?
So Marcus Murphy, everybody's going to hitch their wagons to. Mind the pun. Buffalo hits the wagons. Mind the pun. Everybody's going to hitch
Just
their wagons.
edit that out, Joe.
So everybody's going to hitch their wagons to Marcus Murphy because they see a back that they perceive as young. But Marcus Murphy's going to be 28 years old next year, right?
Yeah.
He does not have a lot of NFL tread on the tires, but I will be honest with you, he really scares me in pass protection. If he's going to have a role on this team, it's got to be as a 3rd down back. It's not a 1 or 2. He's a single cut back, which does fit well into a Brian Daboll run scheme, right? He doesn't want guys that dance around, which was probably some of the problems with Shady, but the reality is he gets run over in pass protection. So I'm kind of on the fence whether Murphy even makes this team next year. He's on like a league minimum contract, so that really doesn't matter. You know, he's not going to cost you anything to get rid of. You know, as far as this season goes, he was the one that flashed to me in the running game and scared me the most in pass protection. So this year, again, a lot of people are going to be on Marcus Murphy stepping into next season. I'm not really a member of that school of thought. And Mar, what do you think?
Well, the one thing about a running back that you're going to need, as far as you know, Brian Daboll offensive, he ends up being your offensive coordinator next year, is the fact that you gotta not know what's going to happen when he's in there. Like, for example, when they put DeMarco in there, you know they're pass protecting. They're going to throw the ball. So what they need to do with Murphy in order to maximize his skill set, like I said, like maybe like a Darren Sproles role or something to that effect, is if you put him in there, maybe you're putting him in there with when you go 3 wide. Don't put him in 2 tight ends, because you actually know what's going to happen. So I think Daboll needs to mix up the play calling in that aspect of it to try to figure out, listen, what we're going to do is we're going to run 4 wide so they can't bring everybody. And we'll shift the line protection to where we think it's going to be the most dangerous, and we'll hopefully Allen can get the ball out of his hands before Murphy has to go block them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I was really happy you brought DeMarco. I thought DeMarco did a great job this season. I know we joked in one of the comments before about DeMarco, about anyone to play fullback, but I thought DeMarco did a good job. But now we can, and also to Paul's point, you know, if you're asking me if I want Marcus Murphy or Keith Ford, give me Keith Ford, because he's a younger guy. We can train him. You know, he can train to do the pass blocking better. So I really actually didn't mind Keith Ford in there at all. I don't know what you guys thought about him.
Yeah, a little bit more of an interior runner, right? So he wasn't like, and people talk about Mike Gillislee like he was the second coming of Kenneth Davis. The truth is that Gillislee couldn't run inside the tackles. He had to get outside. He had to be outside. And you look at all these Bills running backs, none of them like to get to the outside except Shady, who doesn't take a straight path there. Right? He wants to try and wait for something to open. So I really think when you're looking at what the Bills are going to do next year, Ford and Ivory make sense to me. Shady's the piece that doesn't make sense to me just yet. They still need to go out and get a speed back, somebody that can stretch the outside. They just don't have that this year, and I think they really missed that.
Right. Yeah, and I think that we need to get younger, maybe in the draft or something like that, with the running back position. So now I want to move to the offensive line. We've already seen our offensive line coach get fired this offseason. I think there's going to be at least 3 new offensive linemen. What would you think of the offensive line? Why Teller particularly, who we drafted last season? What do you think about them guys on the line?
Well, you know, they took a similar path with Wyatt Teller as they did with Matt Milano, where Milano was actually sitting behind Ramon Humber, who's with the Patriots right now. Yeah. Shocker. Good job, Belichick. So what they decided to do was, because they don't like starting rookies right away unless they have no other option. So Wyatt Teller comes in, he plays pretty well. The thing about it was Dawkins was struggling next to him. So the fact that he was struggling, I don't think you got the full potential out of Teller yet. And so he struggled a little bit on that line. I wouldn't mind them going out in free agency and getting a couple guards. I mean, the name that we had a couple years ago that was a hot name was Ayupati. They might go out and get him.
Yeah, he's back again. He's 31 now. I mean, big difference.
But
2 seasons ago.
Then you got Roger Saffold from the Rams. They're not going to be able to afford him next year with his cap. And there's a guy who, you know, for all intents and purposes, has been blocking for Gurley. I mean, that'd be a nice guy to pick up because I don't think they're going to resign him unless they make some other cuts. But that right side of the line, you talk about with Mills and Miller, both free agents. I don't even know if either one of them is going to be back next year. So the line that we talked about this year as being that they need improvement, they need to do different things. They may be even worse for wear for a number of time, like after the free agency, if they don't pick up the pieces that they need to, and then you're going to see them aggressively go after those guys in the draft if they can't get them in free agency.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point to bring up, because you look at what happened to this offensive line this last offseason, and it was just purely decimated. And releasing Juan Castillo is not that big a surprise, right? It really isn't. I know people will take the argument that, well, what did he have to work with? Well, that's the coach's job, right? That's the position underperformed, period. It doesn't matter if you have a herd of Girl Scouts trying to play offensive line. You have a herd of Girl Scouts, so they need to play offensive line. That's it. You get what you get. So, you know, I think that the releasing of Juan Castillo makes sense, specifically because he wasn't Dable's hire, right? You're going to keep Brian Dable. You got to move on from the pieces that he didn't hire. We don't really know the dynamic year in review, but losing Eric Wood really hurt this offense and the development of Josh Allen, like big time hurt, because you have Groy, who didn't win the starting job. You have Bodine, who did win the starting job, but you brought Bodine in with A.J. McCarron. So, again, these dynamics are all very different. So the offensive line was just a mess this year. You do have to just assume that they're going to bring somebody in. Free agency, I would assume it to be at least a starting right tackle. And then at least a starting guard, and then probably backfill through undrafted free agency and you know, the draft the rest of the way. But the Bills have only scouted one offensive tackle, according to Dean, and that's Jonah Williams. He's the only one that they've scouted. And I mean, if you're talking about a position in need, you're only scouting one tackle. He's from Alabama, and your offensive coordinator was the OC at that college last year. So it's sort of a weird dynamic going into next year.
Right. Put the dots together a little bit. Yeah, I think Mills, the only thing Mills is going for him is what he did with Tico week 17 there when he went after him. I think a lot of Bills fans love him now because of that. But
that's the only thing that's the only thing he hit all season, Joe. Let's not call it for what it is.
Hey, at least give me context there. Now we move to the outside. Of course, talk about the wide receivers. Why I thought we're very hot pulled this year. You know, you talk about Robert Foster coming out strong at the end of the season, undrafted, of course, and he did a great job. But you talk about Zay Jones, who really I thought was going to step up this year. I don't think he stepped up as much as I would have liked to see. There were definitely spots in there where he looked better. But I don't know. What are you guys' take on the wide receiver position as a whole? You got a little bit of Kelvin Benjamin in there too, if you want.
Yeah, I think the Bills' biggest mistake, if you go back to the biggest personnel mistake this season, it was thinking they were okay at wide receiver, right? Yeah. They thought Andre Holmes would be able to be a dual threat, play special teams. They thought that KB was going to have that quarterback that could high point the ball to him, and KB could physically win. You know, I think they expected you know, better chemistry there. KB wasn't even, you know, running routes for Allen, you know, so like I don't know how you can expect chemistry to develop when you're like never on the field together. And unfortunately, it took the Bills a long time to just finally bite the bullet and start rotating that wide receiver position. The truth and the reality is, if you think Robert Foster and Isaiah McKenzie are going to be your 1 and 2 next year, you're sorely mistaken. There's just no way that is going to happen. Zay Jones, if there was ever an opportunity for a wide receiver to just take a stranglehold of the position, it was Zay Jones this year, and he he just didn't do it. He had games where he flashed wide open, but oftentimes when you look at the routes that he was running, he was given separation. Like, he wasn't generating separation on a lot of his routes, which was kind of a problem for him in college. You know, he doesn't really fight for the ball like you want a second round wide receiver to do. Zay Jones looks like a third wide receiver in the NFL right now. And I don't think the Bills are going to make the same mistake going into this offseason as they did, you know, this last one.
Yeah. No, I mean, I look at Zay Jones, and I think three of us all agreed at some point, like, he's a slot receiver, like, that. Like, he's not going to be a 1, he's not going to be a 2. You need to put him in the slot and let him do his work in there. Maybe get a linebacker matchup where he finally can create some separation on the field. Because we know he can catch the ball. He had, over 164 catches or something like that in his last year at Eastern Carolina. Catching the ball to me is the same college NFL. But yeah, it's creating that separation that we really need to look into. So I don't know if you guys had any other thoughts before we move on to the OC, who we all agree on a little bit.
Mar, you got anything for the wide receivers?
No, I was just going to ask Joe, is that if let's say that they're content because Josh Allen was playing well near the end of the year and they were doing all these things, would you say that Robert Foster is a solid 2? I'm just asking. I got to ask you.
Yeah, no, I actually, when the news about Antonio Brown being traded came out, I actually said, man, what a, like, I know there's mixed feelings about Antonio Brown. I'm not saying which side of the fence I'm on there, but if we signed him, like, Rob Foster is a great compliment to an Antonio Brown type receiver. Okay. What we need is a good ball, you know, a good route runner, a good ball control type receiver. We have I think Rob Foster would be a decent number 2, or even a good number 2 if trained the right way. But he's definitely not number 1. And then Zay Jones in the slot, I feel like that would be a good compliment. Give Rob Foster that chance, because he's definitely, to me, he's earned that chance at least to be on the main wide receiver on the roster. So. Okay,
because I was just torn with this discussion because I personally view Jones, McKenzie, and Foster as all 2s, and. Sure. And I was always torn with the fact, can 3 2s replace a solid 1? And I don't think it does. Yeah. Even though Josh Allen played a little bit better at the end of the year, and those guys like McKenzie's cat quick, you can't catch him in a phone booth. Foster has that straight line speed, and Zay Jones is still struggling to find out what type of pro wide receiver he is. So it's really tough to see when you got all those dynamics in there. I think the X factor would probably be the tight end. Right. Complimenting those guys.
And I think the problem when you go into the, we have 3 2s conversation is they all have different strengths, which on paper makes you feel good, right? Well, you have Foster who can run past anybody. You have Zay who can fill any wide receiver spot. You could put him on the outside if you really want. You could put him in the slot. Like, his size and speed allow him to be moved all over the offense. And you have Isaiah McKenzie, who's very quick. The problem is, once you put all 3 of those guys down, it's not hard for a defensive coordinator to walk in and go, okay, we really don't have to be worried about Foster over the top, so let's take that away. We really only have to be worried about Isaiah within the first 10 yards of the line of scrimmage, so let's go ahead and take that away from him. So I think when you have multiple 2s, it gets easier to game plan against that, because in this instance, they all have such different dynamics.
Right, and it's not with a top number 1. It's not like you have to designate 2 guys for that position. Right. You can go 1-on-1 against a lot of these guys, and take away what they're best at easily. I didn't talk about the tight end position because I really felt like the tight end position was non-existent this year. Jason Croom's a young guy coming on who has fumble problems. Other than that, I think he's all right. Charles Clay, we can just cut him. I personally feel like, I think we have 1 year left on his contract, but I felt like he had no production this season. Didn't know if you guys had anything you want to say real quick about the tight end.
Yeah, I think we can all kind of agree that him being active for the last game was just like kind of a nicety to say he can still play the position for when they cut him and he's a free agent, right? They could have made him inactive. They decided not to. They decided to give him 1 last game, and I assume that was because they want, they're giving him the opportunity to audition for 31 other NFL teams. I just don't see a situation where he's back next year.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So that wraps up the offense. And now I know with the offensive coaches are being fired, I think we all agree that means Brian Daboll's going to stay on as offensive coordinator. Let me hear your thoughts about that.
That's my thought, Joe. I was never a fan of Brian Daboll because I don't think he makes Josh Allen better.
Right.
Is he offensive coordinator? Does he have experience? Does he know certain things in the league? Is he great at doing planning a script for a game in the second half? Yes. In-game adjustments, he struggles. And when you're trying to teach, how are you going to teach a young quarterback how to make in-game adjustments if you yourself cannot make in-game adjustments? That has been my biggest pet peeve of him the entire year. And but that's the thing. I just don't think he makes Josh Allen that much better. I think Allen's athleticism and improvisation have been saving a lot of what's been going on with the offense this year.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, big kudos to the offensive quality control department of the Bills, because that's their job, is to generate that script, to help generate adjustments and to kind of pay attention to that. So big kudos to the quality control department of the Bills. You may see that department get rattled a little bit this offseason, because those are guys that typically get hired to be offensive assistants. Those are typically guys that get hired out to be position coaches. So, for the Bills, who was it? Who was their offensive quality control coach? McKay, I think his last name was. I'll have to look it up. But the truth is, when you take a look at how everything rolled out this season, could you contribute some of the offensive struggles to the fact that the position coaches just weren't outstanding? I mean, I suppose you could, right? But Daboll really was very underwhelming. Mark Lubbock, that's who it is. Mark Lubbock is the offensive quality control coach. And he was just phenomenal this season, working with Daboll. So, if he stays, I'm hopeful for Daboll's offense. If he goes, I got to be honest with you, I'm not so hopeful. And I think we're going to get a little bit more of the same. The offense struggled with identity the whole season, and they didn't know what kind of offense they wanted to be. Could you say that was because of the constant carousel of players?
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but that feels like the same argument to me as, well, EJ Manuel hasn't played 16 games yet, so he really doesn't have a full season under his belt. It feels like the same argument to me. Daboll, this is his 5th year as an offensive coordinator in the NFL. If you don't know what you're trying to do now, you're not going to figure it out. And I just don't see him having an identity as a coach that allows me to believe that he's going to develop and call plays the way you need to be successful in the NFL.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I remember a lot of times I was actually on opposite argument with Mario for sure, saying, oh, well, with the rotating door quarterbacks, with rotating door some of these positions, it's unfair to judge them. But then after week 15 and 16, I kind of quieted down. I think I'm at the same point now where you are, Paul, where if we keep them, okay, we're hopeful. Well, if we get rid of them, then, good luck to you elsewhere. But let's get someone in there who knows what to do.
Right. Yeah,
precisely. So I want to thank you guys for joining me on this offensive breakdown of the Buffalo Bills' 2018 season. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Yeah, and guys, go check out hashtag Sport for continuing content. And like I said, we will go over there. We'll be doing the defensive breakdown as well. So thanks for joining me, guys. And we'll see you soon.
All right, thanks again, Joe. Have a good one.
You too.
So again, I want to thank both Paul and Mario, again, 2 great guys, for talking offense, the 2018 Buffalo Bills offense with me again. We did a video on the defense that will be coming out on Wednesday, so I hope that you guys check that out over on their channel. While you're there, again, check out a lot of their great content. They pour out a lot of videos each week, all of them really good. Subscribe to their channel, let them know Believers Talk sent you. We hope that you enjoyed not just this video, but that video as well. And again, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to here at Believers Talk, and we'll continue to keep you updated on Buffalo Bills football. Look forward to doing that. Look forward to see you all season as we do live streams. We do live play-by-play reaction to not just the football games, guys. Buffalo Bulls basketball, men's basketball. We know they're going to be a part of March Madness. Maybe the MAC tournament. We'll do some live play-by-play and streams for that one. The Buffalo Sabres, man, they're playing the playoff push. I know it's still midway through the season. We still have a long way to go. Let's see how those Sabres do. It's nice to play some hockey that matters in the NHL. So we'll be doing a bunch of live streams, guys. And whether I just want to come out here and chat with you guys, or if we're doing some live streams, we'll be here on Believers Talk. So hit that subscribe button, like this video, leave a comment. We'll see you soon. But till we do, go Bills.